Welcome everybody to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I am Josh Fenton. We have so much business going today. We are fueling global capitalism. We start off on the 3 o'clock hour with a little focus on small business. We've got Chip Sampson right here coming all the way up from West Kingston, Rhode Island, newest hot brewery in the state of Rhode Island, Shazan. Talk a little bit about what you're doing down there.
You know, it is quite a trip to get up here from South Kingstown. So,
did you fly up?
We had a helicopter arranged, and
yeah,
then,
nice.
Had to Uber over from the landing spot.
That's great.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, but we got up here.
Great.
So we opened in November last year, 2017, and my partner Josh Letourneau and I opened the doors. We've been open for almost 7 months now. We work out of a space in West Kingston, next to Arnold Lumber and the Rhode Island Mushroom Company.
We know the Rhode Island Mushroom Company. Those guys have been here.
Yeah, we know them well. We saw Mike up here just last week, I believe it was.
Yeah, last week or the week before, yeah.
And we do have some stuff to talk about involving the Rhode Island Mushroom Company, but
nice.
I can get to that in a little bit. Talk a little bit generally about ourselves more. So Josh was at Gray Sail Brewing in Westerly, Rhode Island.
Who's gotten a lot, and they got a lot of buzz. Like they got picked as like one of the hottest breweries in the country. I think Business Insider a couple of years ago
named them. They get a lot of attention, and they're expanding themselves, and they're certainly reaching a wider and wider audience. And they expanded in 2017. So exciting stuff there.
So Josh and you combined and put it all together.
Yeah, so I started working at Gray Sail with Josh, and he and I had this vision of a brewery at some point in our lives, and we thought it was a little further out for us time-wise, and then a chance opportunity came to us where Proclamation Ale Company was in the space where we currently occupy, and they had moved to a larger space in Warwick, and so they reached out to us, and we were able to put a plan together, and with the help of the Commerce Corporation of Rhode Island, we were able to get the necessary funding that we needed and get ourselves started acquiring the equipment and getting underway.
And then what goes into it? I mean, you know, none of us have any idea, right? It all looks simple from the outside. It's like, oh, you're going to create a digital news organization. So talk a little bit about what goes into literally brewing from ground zero, building a brewery that's going to be able to scale and grow, and how you sort of plan that out.
Well, from my perspective, handling most of the business end, it is very fortunate to have a partner, Josh Letourneau, who has close to a decade of established commercial brewing experience. And with that experience, it allows me to ease my nerves a little bit on the production end, where Josh handles a lot of that. I assist with the brewing, but in a very small scale compared to what he is capable of, what he does. So it's nice to have that. And then from my end, and together with Josh, you know, we look to see how we can best position ourselves to draw people into the brewery, how we can reach out to restaurants in the state of Rhode Island that would be interested in carrying our beer.
So what's the two? You've got two different markets, right? You're selling straight through to retail, and then you're also selling at different restaurants and bars across the state. Let's start with direct. How do folks find you? Where do they find you?
So a lot of the marketing that we do to begin with is in social media efforts. We have an Instagram, a Twitter, a Facebook page. At Shades On Beer Co. is the handle for all of those. And so we put out all the information about what we're doing every day that we're open, events that are coming out further out on the days that we aren't open. We also put up some information when we know where we are in restaurants in Rhode Island to help draw people to those locations so they can find us, whether they're in Providence, Newport, Westerly, or other places that are not, you know, close by the brewery so much.
What was the first restaurant you got into?
Hard to say for sure. There was like one stretch where we went out with our distributor to a number of restaurants all at the same time. But some of our most loyal spots have been the Ocean Mist down in Matunic.
Nice.
The Muse Tavern near us.
Yeah.
And actually, the Black Duck Tavern in East Providence has been loyal, keeping Shades On beer on tap, which we certainly appreciate that.
Nice. Nice. And then, and talk about growth. What have you seen? I mean, I know you're less than a year open, so talk a little bit about what are some of the trends you're seeing from a growth pattern.
So one thing that certainly showed a change in how we were performing in a bit is bringing on canning. So we initiated canning just before Memorial Day, and so we've seen a rise in people that are taking home the packaged beer to go.
Yeah.
For a lot of our time operating in the tasting room, most of our business has been with pours. We do 6-ounce and 12-ounce pours available for people to try the beer on site. And then recently with the cans, I think part of it is the ease of the can, the familiarity with a can of beer, and then also people are looking for it, people are interested. And right now with beer, there is a desire to have cans, and people are coming to get cans of beer at breweries all over the place.
And you have cool cans.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, they look great. The graphic designs are cool. They look a little bit different from everybody else. They're not sort of the known. Talk a little bit, walk us through the 3 different varieties.
Sure. So our graphic designs are done by Tandem Design Work, and it's actually Josh's wife, Lindsay Letourneau, who does that for us. So I brought 3 beers here. This is Never Tomorrow, our India Pale Ale. I'm going to go over this way first. So this is the Buffalo Check Pilsner that we did here with this pattern on it. And the reason that is that Buffalo Check is the name of that pattern of flannel plaid shirts. And we had a little play on it with the spelling in the form of the Czech Republic, the country, because of the Czech Pilsner in the Czech influence.
Is this selling well in Czechoslovakia?
We haven't reached the market yet. We're
Seems like a huge missed opportunity.
American market might get drawn to it,
yes,
so hopefully that'll work out when we break through.
Great.
And this middle one, which I did mention a little bit earlier, is a beer we call Trip to the Sun, and this is the beer that we did with the Rhode Island Mushroom Company, and we use chanterelle mushrooms that we got from the Rhode Island Mushroom Company, and so it was a lot of bit experimental actually. It was something that Josh had never brewed before. It was a beer with mushrooms, so we were able to make it happen, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out.
That's great. And what have been the biggest challenges? I think, whenever you see these companies that go fast growing, I think everybody thinks it's all up and to the right, and in reality, it's a series of dips and turns, and 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and that's a good day. A lot of days are 1 step forward, 3 steps back. Talk a little bit about some of the challenges.
Sure, and there certainly have been a lot of challenges, and I think for Josh and I both, we've never had business ownership experience, so a lot of the challenges are a lot of things in an administrative sense where we're not exactly sure, when things need to be done, how they need to be done. We're fortunate to have some of the people that we work with, our accountant who's a good friend of mine.
You can't blame the man. You can't blame the man. You're like,
man, you certainly get frustrated with them.
It's the man's fault. And then you go, oh crap, it's us.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that where, you look for someone to blame, you realize I didn't know something was due, or when I had to have something prepared by, stuff like that. So getting wrapped around all of these different elements of business ownership that we have never really had to approach in the past.
Yeah, it's a good learning experience every single day. Talk a little bit about how you got hooked up with Commerce RI, what that process was like. Was it easy? Was it hard? And what the outcome was. What'd you do with them?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that because it was a very easy situation for us, and we were having trouble figuring out how to finance the project. Josh and I had all this dedication to everything. We had a business plan written, and we couldn't fully fund buying out Proclamation for the equipment.
Gotcha.
So we had gone to banks throughout the state, and a lot of the banks would not offer the loan because we had no experience. There was no history. There's no record of financial performance for us. So I was steered to Commerce RI, and I started working with them in the middle or early 2017, and started off with just a one-on-one meeting, to talk about what our plan was. And what we were going to do, how we planned to do everything, what would set us aside, what would bring us into the beer culture that's growing so much in Rhode Island. And so they were able to work with us, and after that meeting, they streamlined us to another lender, and with that lender, we built up a loan package that was able to work, and we were able to get things started and buy out the equipment.
When did you close on that financing, both with Commerce and the other funder?
We closed in January of 2018.
Oh, good for you.
So fortunately for us, Proclamation Ale Company allowed us to make an initial payment, and then they were going to let us pay installments over the next year, which would have been fairly steep for us as a startup small business that didn't have a lot of capital on hand. So it was closing on the loan that allowed us to ultimately buy out that remaining payment to Proclamation and really ease things for us financially to allow us to get started and really get our feet under us.
And then how's sales been going?
Sales have been going well. We opened the day before Thanksgiving, and it was a great opening around that holiday weekend with people in town. The holiday in December, things went really well for us in December. Slow a little bit through some of the colder months, but for us, fortunately, we've started to see a little uptick once again as we've gotten here into the spring.
And now you're over in West Kingstown, not far from the URI campus. Are any of the older, especially the graduate students, the faculty, have you embraced any of those?
You walk a dangerous line near a university.
Right.
But,
that's why I said
seniors,
seniors, graduate students, faculty, and staff.
Yeah, and the people that we've seen coming in from the university have certainly been of that nature that you say. We're right across from the engineering school, actually, which is temporarily located on Fairgrounds Road, across from us. And so we saw a lot of seniors this school year and up to the spring graduation that were coming in on the Friday evenings right after getting out of the engineering school. We see professors that come down, and also we started promoting as a place to come get a beer before and after URI basketball games.
That's great.
And a very successful basketball season, I think, really helped us out on some of those game days.
I bet. Yeah. Unfortunately, the same can't be true for the URI football team.
A little harder to get the draw with their performance,
Talk a little bit, the beer industry in Rhode Island, we've had Jeremy Duffy on a few times and some of the other guys. Talk a little bit about just what that means for you to have others kind of working in the industry. I mean, you're rivals sometimes, but for the most part, it seems to be a very collegial group, people working together to kind of grow for the greater good of this. Talk a little bit about how that industry is growing in Rhode Island and what it means and what the potential is.
Sure, and I think you mentioned it big time there, is that the community, the collegial aspect, that a lot of these breweries work together, and we wouldn't be where we are without the support and assistance from some of these other breweries. And I mean, I could go through a list that Sean Larkin at Revival helped us acquiring a kegerator. Gray Sale, of course, has been a tremendous help because all of everything they gave to Josh and to me in the past couple of years, but then they continue to support us. Our neighbors at Sons of Liberty and Whalers nearby, they do a great job helping us out when we reach out.
We love Sean.
Oh,
he's
great.
like a bundle of energy when he comes on here. He's been on 2 or 3 times. It's just like a whirling dervish of promotion.
Of good energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Sean's one of the classic presence in the beer industry in Rhode Island. But throughout, I mean, I'm probably could name every brewery and have some way that we have had some connection. We have reached out for advice, or they have come down to the brewery and supported us, and we go to their brewery, support them. They reach out back and forth. I mean, Proclamation Ale Company, we probably still talk with them almost every week about something, whether it's specific to our space or just general advice for how they've done so well and how we can do better ourselves.
Where will you be a year from now?
I think we'll be a much more recognizable presence in Rhode Island. I think as people are kind of coming into South County for the summer season in 2019, they're going to know Shades On Beer Company, and they're going to be looking forward to Shades On Beer Company, and they are going to have specific beers in mind, but also be excited that there's going to be new beer coming out. And we're going to be getting out in more restaurants and growing that presence throughout the state and, you know, getting the word out even beyond that.
That's great. Listen, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It was great to have you. Congratulations on all the success. Stay in touch with us. Keep us up to date on all the big successes. We'll have you back at least a year from now, if not before. And congratulations.
Awesome.
Love to have entrepreneurs on. It's great. It what fuels the Rhode Island economy. This is a state of small businesses. You know, there's about 30, 40,000 small businesses, and it really is what drives the economy.
It certainly is. And we certainly appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk about the company and see where we go from here.
That'd be great. Hey, listen, we'll be right back. We've got another small business to feature. We'll be back in just 1 minute. Thanks so much. Welcome back, everybody. Josh Fenton here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I am here with big-time artist Kendall Reese. She is shaking up the artistic world, just expanded down in Bristol, bought some space, partnered up with Commerce RI, I guess, on the acquisition of the space.
Absolutely.
Let's start with your art. You know, I've only been exposed to it and seeing it online. Talk a little bit about what your motivation is, sort of how you got here, how it all developed.
Absolutely. I'm happy to, Josh. Thank you so much for having me
Yeah,
here
absolutely.
today. It's really a pleasure, and thanks to Commerce RI as well for, of course, supporting me through so many different processes of owning and starting a small business. So it's a real pleasure.
Never a dull moment.
Never.
No.
Always exciting and an adventure, I must say.
Yeah, that's right.
So I can tell you a little bit about me personally as an artist, and then maybe we can talk a little bit more about the business. So I myself, actually, my undergraduate degree is in geology, and I ended up going back to school at RISD for a master's in jewelry and metalsmithing. And so my focus and my practice is as a jeweler. I do make limited production line work, I make commission work, but I also have an expanded practice which focuses on sculpture, installation, and a lot of different mediums.
I think you're understating it. It is a wild variety of different mediums, being all sort of. But there's a theme to it all, right? There's like you wouldn't look at it. I don't look at it and go, oh, that looks like one artist, and that looks like an entirely different one. There seems to be some kind of organic common themes to what the work you're doing.
Absolutely. So being a Rhode Islander, I have to say a lot of my inspiration comes from nature and being outside and exploring. And of course, having studied geology, I'm a real student of nature. And so always out picking things up, whether it's on the shoreline or, as we were just saying, on the wonderful streets of Providence.
Yeah,
you never know what you might find.
Some of it good and some of it not so good.
Love to repurpose material. Providence had such a rich costume jewelry industry, so there's a lot of old material that's still kicking around, and you can really get inspired by that.
Yeah.
And you know, that sort of paired with my sensibility, I think, about material and how to combine and put things together ends up being something that I guess drives the work. So.
And you left Rhode Island for a period of time and sort of traveled Americas. Talk a little bit about that and how that worked, and then why you came back.
Definitely. So I did travel far and wide. I thought I might leave Rhode Island at a certain point, as many of us do, I think, having grown up here. But it was in part coming back to study here that brought me back, but also just working in and around this state and having a supportive industry that also was so focused on jewelry. So it made a lot of sense, and I came back, attended the Rhode Island School of Design, earned a master's degree in jewelry and metalsmithing in 2011. And when I got out of school, ended up going into the field as an educator. So I'm also a teacher.
Oh, great.
And then I decided to sort of also focus my efforts on entrepreneurship and starting this business.
And not for the faint of heart. How are you selling? How do you, I'm sure you've got some great fans, and there's the word of mouth, but that gets you to Warren. And then how do you get beyond that? And how do you kind of create your brand? How does the Kendall Reese brand? And you can see that it's starting to emerge as a brand. How do you build that?
Thanks, Josh. So, it's interesting. I feel like when you're just an individual person and sort of start out as a small business person and a sole proprietor, it takes a little while to feel like you are established. And so, I think just sort of keeping at it and continuing to work and continuing to make things that are interesting for me makes it interesting for others. And so I end up selling work and meeting a lot of people through like RISD's alumni sales, for example. Those have been great ways of getting out there. And then a lot of it is word of mouth. A lot of it is something that gets transferred just one person to another. And then I do meet a lot of people, of course, in Bristol at the business, which is wonderful. So,
and it's become such a little hotbed of both Bristol and Warren, which, 10, 15 years ago, especially Warren, was a dead man zone. Not to be gender driven, but, and now it's really become, a cool place to go shop, and there's a lot of different, clothing stores and design stores and sort of everything in between. Is that driving a lot of your foot traffic, a lot of the energy into the store?
Yeah, so I find that Bristol and Warren, sort of the East Bay area, is really coming up quite a bit in the arts. Of course, Warren was a little more hip than Bristol was to start, but I think we're catching up slowly. So there's hope yet, and the sort of ways that I do get out there that are really incredibly helpful. There's a lot of local arts organizations that are really wonderful. So I try to partner, being an educator and somebody that cares a lot about my community. I end up trying to also have that be a focus of my business and the way that I operate. Oftentimes will be to partner with somebody like Art Night Bristol Warren, for example, and that will be happening July 26th at the gallery, actually, in the evening. So just partnering with these folks who are already out there supporting the arts and trying to really raise awareness, and then allowing that to sort of be a relationship that grows together.
You're allowed to tell people in Providence, too. I just wanted to let you know.
Oh, good.
And people in Newport. We were just kicking around Bob Whitcomb, who used to be the editorial page editor at the Providence Journal for decades, writes for us now. We were talking about the importance of Newport Art Museum and how, and now you have the Museum of Illustration, and, you're building this pretty big arts community. There's always been a lot of artists who worked out of Newport, but now you're getting some institutions really growing and becoming huge hubs of art in the Northeast now, and what the implications of that, and how that can drive the commerce and folks like yourself. As you were building the business and envisioning it, what took you to commerce to say, hey, I need some help in buying a building, and how this is all going to work, and how I'm going to sell enough of my art to be able to support this?
It's a very, very good question, Josh. Very important question. So
at the end of the day, as I always say about business, at the end of the day, we're all hardware stores, right?
Indeed.
You got to sell more nails. You got to sell enough nails to turn on the light and pay the staff and things like that.
All those fun adult things.
We're just hardware stores.
Yeah, we're just all hardware stores. I like that. I can identify, small fabricated objects in metal.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely. So essentially, I've been in business since 2012. And I've always rented studio space. I've been in multiple different places. I was up here in Providence at the AJ Land building for a bit. I was then down in Jamestown for a while. I ended up, my life moved back to Bristol, and I rented space in an industrial complex on Wood Street for, well, about 3 years or so. And there was this little building that was for sale across the street. I sort of had these dreams about potentially maybe being able to buy this little building at some point, and with a lot of help and a lot of support from good friends who are realtors who can do math better than I can, and other folks, I was pointed in the direction of Seed Corp, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Bank 5 helped me in Bristol. I got turned down by a lot of banks, and a lot of, you know, it was difficult to find that funding. But Commerce RI came through. They were fabulous to work with.
And when did you close?
I closed in January of 2017.
Oh, so you've been at it for over a year.
Yeah, doing about 6 months of renovation in the space, and then I've been open since last July.
That's great.
So.
Did you put on a huge neon light
that
can be seen from all directions off 195,
etc.? The bat signal.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
indeed.
right. And now that you have your own space, what's it meant to you being able to focus on growing the business, and how's the business going?
Definitely. So it's been incredible to be able to be in a space that is fully ours, and means that can really use it in a lot of different ways. And so I have focused on you know, getting the space up and running to start, but now we're able to start shifting towards exhibiting the work of other artists, putting together an exhibition that will open July 14th at the gallery. So
and who's going to be there? Who else will be there?
So there are 3 artists whose work will be featured: Alyn Carlson, Tanya Crane, and Art B. Genshin, and they are one jeweler and then 2 two-dimensional artists. Their work is phenomenal. The show is called Surface to Substrate, and it really looks at contemporary landscape. So it should be really interesting.
And you're going to send us all the information, and we're going to put a big feature out on it,
and
all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge for you? What's that thing that's like, oh, if I could just...
Yeah.
What is it?
Time.
Time. Sound like me.
So obvious. But yeah, initially I think the really big challenge was finding funding and getting the support. Being a small business and someone who didn't have a long business history, I really had to work that initially to get, you know, securely in that space.
Right.
Now I think my focus is sort of shifting, and how do I really make the most out of being in Bristol on Wood Street, and what does it mean to have a local arts venue that isn't just a gallery space. It also serves as a teaching space. It also serves as my studio. Love to do all kinds of other interesting things down the road. So
I curse sleeping every single night.
Indeed.
I literally do. I'm like, oh, I just didn't have to sleep 4 hours a night.
That eating thing? I know. My
waste
gosh.
of time. Proven waste of time.
The beer drinking, though, that's okay.
Yeah, he seemed quite pleased with it. I think if Chip can get out of the one for me, one for you thing, they'll be more profitable down there. She's on. Listen, I want to really thank you for coming on. We want to know more. Like, we love it when people come on. We love entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
We love focusing on entrepreneurs. You know, it's those people that take the risk and dive in there, and, you know, it's never easy, and there's a million days where you go, oh, what was I thinking? But at the end of the day, you also get to hire people and give them chances, and you get to build an economy and all those things. So congratulations on the success.
Thank you.
And we hope you'll come back and tell us about the expansion all over the world, and the office in Paris and all those sort of things.
Definitely.
So Kendall Reese, great artist, making it happen down in Bristol, Rhode Island. And want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're going to be back at 4 o'clock. We've got Gary Sass, the money man, talking about the state budget, and also, is there an economic bubble on the horizon? Then we've got Megan up at G Media. She'll be down talking about blockchain, what the implication of that is for all businesses, including news media, and also Saul Kaplan from Business Innovation Factory. And we're going to be talking about innovation, and what's going on at Amazon and some other places. So we'll see you back at 4 o'clock. Thanks for tuning in to Small Biz, and thanks for joining us at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center.